I saw something online the other day which kind of inspired this video. And I know for a lot of people, spirituality is it's a belief system, basically. So for a lot of people, there's like the motivation to gather information. And, you know, we kind of we gather all of this information, and it's then sort of seen as our authority as to what spirituality is. But then also it can be information from various different sources. But what's sort of the most popular approach, certainly as it appears, is now we have this kind of meme culture and these kind of little tidbits of information that you can find and gather from, people that create all these memes out of quotes and sayings and expressions that kind of popular or famous philosophers or teachers, gurus, whatever, have said over the years, and they've just been kind of truncated into bite-sized chunks of information. So this kind of desire to almost live by these quotes without any true insight and understanding into what this kind of excerpt of information is actually sort of referring to, or what it's actually sort of kind of trying to direct you to. And then also sometimes it can be that the information, it's only what people are gathering because it resonates. So it doesn't matter whether or not there's any truth in it. It could be the biggest load of rubbish out there. But because it's been kind of categorized into this, under this spiritual banner, and it resonates with the person, then they feel more inclined to want to share it with you. And this is what they regard as being spirituality. So in a nutshell, this approach of spirituality, it is basically founded on a belief system. And as I've said previously in my other videos, your belief system, the basis of your belief system is that you believe you are the person, or the psychological impressions that you have in your mind. So that's the root of your belief system, that you are who you think you are. So when it comes to um, like most avenues of spirituality, it's no different to religion. I see a lot of people that kind of practice occult spirituality, and certainly from my experience and from what I've seen myself, occult spirituality is based and built upon a belief system. It's what you believe that kind of brings about your experience, and this experience that is then seen as spirituality. So the word spirit and spiritual and spirituality, they carry different meanings depending on your approach. It carries a different meaning if your approach is religious. It carries a meaning if your approach is occult. But then there's a different meaning if your approach is none of these, which, in my view, to have an approach that is none of these is the direct approach, because this approach isn't dependent on an authority. It's not dependent on believing something. So essentially, the direct approach is to throw out all of the beliefs, throw out all of the ideas and the impressions and all of the psychological gatherings pertaining to who you are, pertaining to your culture, pertaining to religion, religious ideas, philosophies, to throw everything out. It doesn't matter how wise it might appear to be. It doesn't matter how truthful it might appear to be. Everything has to be thrown out. And the ultimate aim is to see for yourself. So, this is why in a lot of my videos, if you've seen any, I say, don't believe me. I'm not sharing anything for anybody to believe, but everything that I'm sharing is my view. It's what I see. And ultimately, you are it would serve you better to see for yourself as opposed to just believing what I say or what anybody else says, because the moment you um, invest your belief is like your attention. It's like investing your attention. So once you believe something, this is your desire to see whatever it is that you want to believe. You don't believe anything that you see. In truth, it's foolish to believe anything that you see because you see it. So if you can see it, then it's pointless. There's no point believing it. It's an actual experience for you. And it doesn't matter if you're hallucinating, tripping. It doesn't matter if you see a mirage. It doesn't matter if you're dreaming. It doesn't matter if you whatever. None of that matters. If you can sort of speak about it with clarity, then this is your experience. This is your reality. No matter what, even if it's a complete illusion, it is still your reality. So whatever it is that you speak about, whatever it is that you see, this ultimately is the content of your consciousness. This is what you are consciously aware of. So we tend to want to believe something. We want to gather information, something to believe. I kind of see that the whole education process that we go through, our society, our societal education system, in a way, it's kind of, or what it does, it keeps our minds childlike. I keep backing out of the sun because it's beautiful, but it's not all very good on camera. But anyway, our societal education system, it, in a sense, it keeps us like in a childlike state of mind. So if you've seen any of my other videos, I've spoken about the infant mind, I've spoken about the spiritual mind, and maybe the ego mind I've spoken about. The childlike state of mind is the state of mind where you start to believe things. Okay. So once you've kind of embraced this idea that you are this psychological impressions and all of this that you believe about yourself, once this has become your reality and started, formula kind of formed the foundation of your reality, your belief system, then you will practically believe anything, because this is the trust that we have as infants. This is our innocence. We are kind of at the mercy of our environments, and we are completely dependent on our environment to, in a sense, show us the way. So we will believe anything just about, basically we've got no reason not to. Hence we have things like or these religious figures. We have things like Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, and Easter Bunny, and blah blah blah. All of these different things that we start to believe in from a very young age. But ultimately, the the kind of desire to believe something stays with us. So as we get older and older, we need something to believe. We need something to believe in. And even the whole idea of believing in yourself, realistically, how many people actually take the time to understand what that actually means? Who is it that is to believe, and what is what we refer to as yourself? What is yourself that you are supposed to believe in? You know, the kind of expression itself, it kind of reinforces the idea that ultimately we are divided. As individuals, we are kind of divided, that there is something in us that has to believe in something else that is also supposed to be us. So I said before about the content of our consciousness. You know, we speak and we communicate in accordance with the contents of our consciousness. So it's like when anything that I say when I'm sharing these videos, and I say, I speak about seeing it for yourself, because when our minds are kind of stuck in this cycle, if you like, of beliefs, so we kind of bounce from one belief to another. We're gathering information all the time about this and that and so on and so on. And you know, certainly when my kind of spiritual path began, it was all about gathering bits of information from here and there. It was for me about philosophies, various philosophies or philosophical figures. It was about Zen and Buddhism and Taoism. It was about what I could learn from Christianity and the Bible. It was about the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita. It was about the Tao Te Ching. You know, these are all the books that I gathered along the way. These are all the books that I was reading initially. It was there's another book that I bought about the essence of the Vedanta. So all of these things I was reading initially, but I may have said in a previous video, there was one quote that I read in this Buddhist book that basically said, Buddhism is like a boat to take you across the river. Once you get to the other side, the boat becomes useless, which my first impressions is like the Buddhism is basically telling me that Buddhism is useless. But then it soon dawned on me that Buddhism, as I was reading it, is just a collection of words. It's a collection of ideas that somebody has written down. That essentially is what Buddhism is. But what these words are actually pointing to is what you have to see for yourself. So it becomes an easy kind of situation to be in, to gather all these bits of information from here, there, and everywhere, and just cut out the bits and pieces that resonate with us, like I said before. And this resonation, it's like this is what we identify with. It's like, oh, I like that. Yeah, that says a lot about me. I'll I'll I'm going to keep that. I'll share it on my social media or whatever. It doesn't matter, like I've said, whether or not there is any actual truth in it. The only thing that matters is whether it resonates. So I soon began to see that Buddhism is just a collection of words. And everything that I was gathering and reading and collecting was the same thing. It was just words. So everything that I had was just trying to take me across the river. And at some point, I had to leave all of that behind. So the more we kind of go into this believing role, all we continue to do is gather things to believe. And what our minds will do is we will, perhaps at some point, you might have a spiritual awakening, which basically the awakening is the realization. And it's uh, I suppose to put it into words, the realization is like realizing that there is so much that you do not know fundamentally about yourself. And, that kind of realization is like the point where there has been a turning point in your awareness. Like it's not looking out there anymore, it's looking this way. So suddenly there is like a desire to know about this. But then what happens is we have that kind of flash, that momentary realization, and then we are drawn towards gathering information again. So like I said before, my journey was I've started to read this book, that book, and the other book. So it's like this is the ego trying to survive. The ego suddenly realized that it's lost its grip. So in order to kind of maintain it again, it has to masquerade as this spiritual realization and the one that has realized something. And in this process, then it starts to feed itself again with all this spiritual literature. So this spiritual literature then begins to create another image in the mind, which then is the content of your consciousness. So something that I read somewhere or I saw somewhere about consciousness expanding. I think it's important to really understand what consciousness is, what consciousness actually means to you before going down this path of speaking about the expansion of consciousness. You know, the expansion of consciousness, as I see it, is no different to the scientific view of the universe in saying that the universe is expanding. The more you believe about out there, the more you will start to see to support whatever it is that you believe. And this is the same with the kind of your state and the content of your consciousness. The more that you believe about in here, the more you will begin to see in accordance with whatever it is that you believe. But then to throw like another bit of a twist on this is you might start to believe more and more things about yourself. And through what you start to believe, you begin to see more and more things out there. But as I mentioned in a previous video about observation and awareness being not of the mind. So in a sense, observation and awareness kind of come through the mind. So at the same time, it's like you can be doing anything outwardly, and also be aware of the content of your mind, what's going on in your mind. And in fact, our days consist mostly of that anyway. If you're walking, for example, then your awareness is using your mind in a way to view reality. This is how we become aware of dangers and things to avoid and so on, and all of the things that we become aware of is because we are looking outwardly through the mind. So if you start to believe more and more things about yourself, your mind will start to construct this reality, in which in turn you will start to see as an outward reality. But at the same time, it is still the result of looking through your mind held beliefs. So the expansion of consciousness, then, I suppose one way of looking at it is one either sees consciousness itself as a whole, or one sees the content of consciousness, and in seeing and observing the content of consciousness, one begins to become more conscious of things within one's consciousness. So the thing is now, and when I speak about belief systems, and when I speak about not believing me, every single one of us that has something to believe in, every single one of us that believes in something. Okay, so you might be in a group, right? And in this group of even if it's 5 people, 10 people, it might just be two of you, it might be 100 people, it might be 1,000, but you all share a common belief, which pertains to religion, maybe, or spirituality, or whatever. You all share this common belief, but then every single one of you as individuals, you all have your own set of differing beliefs. So no two people in the group are going to have a complete belief system that is identically the same, that is completely identical. Every single one of us, with our head filled with beliefs, we all have so many different beliefs, so many conflicting beliefs, not only conflicting within the group, but conflicting within ourselves as individuals. So we live now in a world that is filled with conflicting beliefs. And the thing is, it's clear to see this because we're always at war. There hasn't been a single day that I have been alive. And you can look back at history, throughout the last, I don't know how many thousands of years, where mankind has always been at war. And even when you look at some of these literatures and texts that might date back thousands of years, they speak about the same things. People are still struggling with the same things, with the same conflicts, with the same identity issues, with the same poverty, the same sickness and disease. People are still going through the same motions that they were thousands of years ago today. But the only thing that's changed, as we're aware of, is technology. Technology's changed a great deal, but psychologically, we remain the same.